Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Unbelievable Nerds podcast. It's great to have you here. Alongside me, I've got my usual suspect in Bragster.
Hello.
Come to him in a bit because there's someone far more interesting below him on the screen. The newest host, newest member, newest party of the podcast. It's Mr. Gavin Brush himself. How are you doing, Gavin?
Hi, everybody. I'm doing fantastic, thank you. It's great to be a part of the team.
Yes, and it's certainly great to have you here. Obviously, we've made the announcement over the weekend. At the time of recording the podcast, it's not actually announced, but by the time you listen to this, it will be announced. So you'll know he's part of the team, so it's not too big of a shock. But yeah, great to have you in, Gav. And on sort of that note, we'll move over to the other guy that I suppose we have to.
Hello,
Bragster, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, fantastic. Great to hear from you.
Well, I'm just great to have Gavin on board. Honestly, I'm excited, and I'm excited about the topic today as well. Always love talking about wrestling.
It's kind of a perfect topic for Gavin, really. Let's be honest.
Really? I mean,
really?
Yeah.
No.
The background.
No idea what wrestling is, really. No idea.
That's all that we need to know.
Not a clue.
So yeah. Just like Bragster said, and Gavin's obviously pointed out there, today's podcast is going to be about wrestling because there's been a few big headlines and newsworthy stories and things that are coming up, obviously, to discuss. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And yeah, we're going to get straight into it. And I think the only place to start is Monday night. It was a hell of a night, wasn't it, ladies and gentlemen? It was a hell of a night for multiple reasons. Not least of all, this boy right here, Triple H, had a groundbreaking, shaking, swelling announcement to make. And everyone thought, oh my God, he's leaving the company. Or, oh my God, he's finally killed off Vince. Or, oh my God, he's left Stephanie. Anything. I mean, anything and everything. You know, like it could have been anything. We had no idea what was going on, no idea what was coming. And lo and behold, we got an answer to that very thing, and it was this beauty, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, or whatever they want to call it. It's the heavyweight championship, basically. It's going to be essentially what we all figure to be probably the Raw title, depending on how the draft goes. So I'm going to kick straight to the guy who's got the best facial expression once he's seen that belt on screen. I'm going to cut to Gavin, just ask him for his opinion on what he thinks of this new belt.
You've got the big gold belt just sitting there. Why do you have to bring this monstrosity on? That just looking at it just upsets me. Like, I understand the side plates are fine. Like, obviously they're going to go with the whole custom side plates thing. That's not an issue. The original big gold belt had the capacity for that anyway. But this just looks like an absolute mess. If I'm being completely honest, it just looks like a mess. I don't like it at all.
Okay, that's fair enough. Bragster, what do you think?
I like it. It's growing on me.
Polar opposites.
No, because there's a thing with obviously I think I'm not the only one that expected Big Goldie to come back. And no, not Tommaso Ciampa's Goldie. This Goldie. Yeah, I think I was expecting the big gold World Heavyweight Championship to come back, but then there was reports back a few, I think it was a couple of months ago now, of Triple H has approved a new design of a title. So that made me go, well, they're not bringing back the original, are they? So they're gonna change it. So it's a matter of, okay, so how are they going to change it? The most obvious way was they were going to stick a big, massive WWE logo on the front. Why? Because marketing reasons is why they whenever they give a bout to somebody who's famous, they've got a big WWE logo on the front of all their social media posts. So, it's not just here's a nice looking belt. Oh, that looks nice, and it could be anything. It's like, no, it's WWE. They like doing that. That's the way they're designing a lot of the modern titles, especially the world titles. NXT's the same. The NXT world titles also have the NXT logo on it for the exact same reason of it being recognizable. That's why they've done this. Did I like it amazingly initially? No. but the more that WWE release like photos or the videos of it and stuff, the more I'm coming to like it, and the more photos of people photoshopping it onto the wrestlers, the more I'm starting to like it. I think it's going to be one that is going to grow on a lot of people, I think.
I don't know if Gav feels that way about it growing on people. But in terms of... Sorry, go on, Gav.
No, it's like... One of my biggest problems with it is the fact that I feel like the massive W logo in the front. I mean, obviously, as Bragster said, it's marketing. That makes sense from that point of view. But like, I feel like in a heavily designed main plate like that, do you need a heavy kind of central massive logo branding like that for a plate with such just such intricate design? Because if you really think about, for example, the UK title, when that was the thing, RIP NXT UK, like when that was the thing, it was just a little logo in the middle with like the design of the plate kind of taking a bit more priority. This, it just feels like, I don't know, it just doesn't look very nice. I think maybe the coloring on how it looks there is probably not how a final design will look. I think maybe if it was a little lighter instead of darker, it might look a little bit better, and I wouldn't be so against it. But yeah, it's just looking like that. I'm not.
Oh, he's so annoyed,
so angry. He just
by the belt. He's just gone.
He
destroyed.
got so infuriated. He clicked.
He's left the pod already.
Yes, he clicked the escape button.
He's been in for 6 minutes.
What happened there? It just
he's
said
been in for 6 minutes, and he's just thought, I've had enough of this.
I'm so confused. I'm so sorry.
Well, it's okay. We said we'd go on a tangent.
Yeah.
That was strange. Okay. Anyway,
we thought you were just so disgusted by the topic of the belt that you just thought, "Sod it, I'm going."
We'll pretend it was intentional. That was
In terms of my general thoughts of the belt, I'm not too fussed by it. I seem to be in the middle, which is typical for me to be in the fence about things. I'm not bothered by it, and for me, it's sort of the same feel of like the new Intercontinental belt and the US belt. It's just sort of following that sort of similar path. I think the only thing that I would maybe change is like if you just take the world out of it, like the world like sphere behind the W, and made it that sort of the gold mesh behind it, and it was just the W ingrained on it. I think it would look 10 times better. Because you don't need the whole world and then heavyweight thing on it. Like, look at the black belt. Like, that's just a plain W, and then it's got obviously the diamonds around it, and then it's got the heavyweight championship on the top and bottom, and I think that looks perfectly nice like that. So yeah, for me, that's the only thing I would do. But again, the designs might change, it might not. I think it's definitely better than just the red belt that they did when it was the universal belt, and everyone just was like, what the hell is this? But yeah, again, I'm not too fussed by it. In terms of the belt itself, and in terms of obviously what it's supposed to be there to do, which is give the other show of whichever Reigns isn't on a belt to fight for, do you think, like, there's a lot of people out there that are saying it's a bit of a pointless belt, and it's kind of just like, why does it exist? Do you think it's pointless, or do you think it's actually worthwhile having it? I'll go with Bragster on this one first.
For me, it's worthwhile. I think that it was a necessary move. I think, especially with how long Reigns had the titles, I think that it was the necessary move to be like, right, we're gonna bring in a new belt, do the draft split, like the brand split, sorry, not the draft split, where one brand gets Roman and all the titles and the other brand is left empty, so you need a new title. They've done that before when they did the brand split the first time, and with the whole like Ambrose-y, like, you know, Ambrose gets the one, and what's going to happen on the other side? That's when the Universal title came in. So it makes sense in that respect. However, my actual concern isn't necessarily about what's going to happen with this bout. It's what's going to happen with the other one that is my concern. Because basically, I don't believe they're going to have they're going to have 3 top bouts at the same time. So I have a feeling they're going to unify the Universal and WWE. Now, this is where they have to be careful, because this is where my concern comes in, because I felt like, you know, I don't know. I felt like there were multiple ways of doing it. Like, I came up with loads of different ways of splitting the belts, this, that, and the other. And this was one of them, but it was also like the only way they can get away with this is like, because they can't have Roman like only have the WWE and they like, and that, because his reign, his long reign that he's getting all the accolades for is with the Universal. So they can't just scrap the Universal. But then if they combine the two, that means that you don't have a WWE champion, which I don't think they're going to want. So there's two scenarios for me that are going to happen. And that are the only two scenarios in my head that I can come up with to make this work. Number one, they unify the titles and have an undisputed champion. And have a redesign of the old one. So you have two redesigned belts at the top. And then when Roman inevitably loses it, probably to Cody, Cody wants to bring the WWE back. He wants to bring the heritage back. And that's why he changes it for the WWE title. And there you go. That's how you get around it. The only other way, if you really don't want to get rid of the WWE title, which I get because of the branding and etc. that we mentioned before, is have Roman be the one to throw it away. Have Roman go, I'm done carrying two belts. You can have that one. You know, I've held that one for the last like 3 years. What's the point in it? Like, have Roman be like, I'm done carrying it around. This title, like, I made this title and I want to get rid of it. And that's how he sort of, you know, he's the one that gets rid of it. So then it makes storyline sense as to why he would scrap it and then just have the WWE and still have this long reign that he gets all the accolades for. So my concern isn't necessarily what happens with this, because I think whatever happens with this title, with the whole tournament thing that they're probably going to do for it, and I think Seth's going to be the one to take it. I think it's going to be a really good story, and I think it's really going to work. It's just because of this title, what happens then with the other one is my concern.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. Well, I understand that. Gav, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's?
Yeah.
I think it's pointless.
Yeah. So I agree with what a lot of what Bragster said. I think the problem with it is, does it feel like a bit of a consolation prize because you can't beat Roman, so we'll just give you something to fight over instead. Or, well, we won't let you beat Roman, so here's something to fight over instead. Like, I mean, as Bragster pointed out, they love a tournament, so I can definitely see a tournament happening. Will it? I mean, they've already said it's going to be to Night of Champions, that the first champion crowned. I like the whole idea of, you know, Roman kind of unifying them, or Cody winning them and unifying it into the WWE Championship and then binning the Universal branding off. I kind of understand how that makes sense. But I think that's the only way that this title's going to feel a bit more prestigious, because if they're going to keep the Universal and WWE split, this is going to feel like a toy in essence, and they're not going to want to lose the WWE Championship, because not only is it the branding and it's like, you know, the essence of the company, but it's the lineage of it as well. They're not going to want to lose the lineage of that, and they're not going to start that, you know, they're not going to start a brand new lineage with this title to get rid of the main title they've had for over 60 years. Because, I mean, look at the backlash that everyone had when New Japan got rid of the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and started a completely brand new lineage after they unified it with the Intercontinental. Like, I just can't see them doing that. So, yeah, a lot of what Bragster says makes sense, and I kind of agree with a lot of it.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think Bragster's sort of summed it up pretty well in one go, really. I don't agree with the fact that it's a pointless belt. I do think it's a belt that's needed, because I think we all remember when Brock had the belt and basically was never on, and it was like, can't have this situation again. And to be fair to Roman, he put himself in that position by being as good as he was and making himself as valuable as he was to the company. I just found it very strange that like Triple H was saying like, it's great for Roman, but it's bad for WWE. And it's kind of like, well, Yeah, but you let him do that. Like, you could have just said, well, if you're going to go onto a part-time thing, then sorry, the belts aren't yours anymore. Like, we need full-time people to have the belts.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just didn't understand that wording from him. I don't know if he was trying to sort of poke the bear a little bit, or, you know, just be Triple H, just throw something out there for people to maybe chew on, and we've just looked into it too much. Maybe. Probably is that. I mean, everyone else has said the same thing, really. But I think it's a great thing that there is a main belt for whichever show it's going to be on, because at the end of the day, a wrestling show without a belt to fight for, it's kind of just like, well, you're just two men scrapping because you just fancy a scrap, basically, and that's about it. It adds a lot of prestige to it. I think obviously they've got to get it right with who's going to have it first, because if you put it on the wrong person and then they never mind the person, but if they botch the first reign with it, that's when it really starts to crater and collapse and maybe not be the belt they want it to be. Go on, Bragster.
I want to get my pitch out there, because as every wrestling fan loves to do, they love to pitch. And everyone loved my pitch in the last video, so I'm doing another one. Quite frankly, I think there's one way and one way only they make this brilliant, and that's by having Seth beat Finn Balor for it at Night of Champions. You repeat what you did for the Universal title, and yet you have the other guy win it and go over. That also praises Seth Rollins for all the hard work that he's done over the past year and a bit, carrying whatever brand Roman wasn't on, pretty much, is what he's been doing. So that gives him that. I then think you then head into SummerSlam. You have, I would have Cody beat Roman at SummerSlam. I know it's quick. I know it's a quick turnaround, but I would do it that way. Just so you can have at Survivor Series, you have Cody versus Seth, title versus title, and you run it back. You run that rivalry right back to the beginning and have this whole like full circle moment of what stole the show when Roman was champion, Cody versus Seth. So what's the first big match after Roman isn't champion? Cody versus Seth. But how do you do it without being for a title and just running a feud back for the sake of it? You force them together by both being champions, and they have to fight each other. I think that also creates a new dynamic. The fact that they are both champions and both on the top of their game, you know, and they both have since left that rivalry with respect for one another. You know, it did all end with, I know it did end with the whole kendo stick thing, but there was also shaking of hands and things where, like, Seth vocally said, you know, he has respect for Cody. He just is peed off about the fact that he'd lost to him. You know, and that's what I would have happen. I understand that what's more likely to happen is Roman will hold it till next Mania, and then probably Cody will beat him or something like that. Because I have a feeling Roman versus Rock isn't happening. For me, if Roman holds it past SummerSlam, Roman versus Rock isn't happening. If Roman loses the belt at SummerSlam, I think Roman versus Rock is happening. Just because I feel like they're not going to do it for the belt, especially if they unify them, like we're sort of saying they have to at this point. I think that's kind of what they're going to do. So my pitch, just throwing Cody versus Seth back because it's cool, isn't it?
I like the pitch. I think if they want to make it like that, I don't know why you just don't do Seth versus Cody at Mania, make that the main event at night 2. Make that the last thing, because because as great as Roman has been, eventually someone else has to main event. And when it was Roman versus Brock last year, as good as Roman was, I was a bit like, I'm getting sick of Roman Reigns being the main event all the time. Like, I want to see other people in it. Yeah. And I think that Seth's never had a main event at Mania. Cody's obviously just had his first one. I think the history that them two have got, the fact that when Cody came back, it was them two. I just think that makes more sense for me for a Mania match than a Survivor Series match.
I mean, you could still have it. You could have them lose the titles. One of them lose the title, win the Rumble. Like Seth lose the title, win the Rumble, and then want to face Cody again.
Well, I think
I get what you mean. Like,
I think the other thing obviously that has to happen is someone else has to win a belt off Roman. has to win the belt off Roman. But I think the perfect opportunity to do that is something like Royal Rumble. I think you do it at Royal Rumble because people will be expecting Roman to get to Mania. And it's like, if he drops it at Rumble, like, again, the person I would personally pick because of the history of the story would be Jay. Because I just think that even if Jay doesn't have it till Mania and he loses it, say, Elimination Chamber or something, and then the Rumble winner takes on the Chamber winner or whatever, I just think the Seth Cody thing writes itself for a Mania main event in terms of the history. And even say, for example, I agree that's what they should do in terms of Seth and Finn. That's exactly what they should do. But if they did Seth versus Cody at Night of Champions and then Seth wins it and then Cody goes on this journey, because I have a feeling that basically what they're going to say is whoever wins out of Brock versus Cody gets a shot at the belt at Night of Champions. And I think that's how they set one half of it up. And then the tournament, whoever wins the tournament wins the other half of the shot. So, yeah. But to be fair, I mean, I think SummerSlam is very much a destination that might have penciled in for Cody.
Yeah.
But I would like, if they're making him miss out on Mania, I would like there to be a longer story to it, because Triple H has shown that he can do long storytelling year to year and make it work. And I think making it the next big pay-per-view is sort of like, or the next major pay-per-view, I should say, is sort of a bit of a, well, it's not going to happen now, but like 3-4 months down the line, it's going to happen. It's kind of like, unless they have the build for it, because obviously everyone says it's a terrible idea. For me, if you've got the build, anything can work. Like wrestling is that one of those rare things that if you have the build, the payoff can be whatever you want it to be, really. So yeah, but that's just my point in it. I would love for it to be Seth and him go on this long run and Roman drop the belt at some point, and then there's sort of like now there's jeopardy on the belts because you don't know who's coming where and who's doing what. But yeah, what do you think? What do you think, Gav?
I love exactly what you've both said, but I would go in a slightly different direction, and I'd have Finn go over. Have like run Finn. Like Finn never got the opportunity with the Universal title because he got injured, and the work he's been doing with the Judgment Day has been absolutely sensational. I think a lot of it's down to how brilliant. I think a lot of it's down to how brilliant Rhea Ripley is, but I think what Finn's been able to do has been pretty good as well. You know, Dom's catching major heat. Damian Priest looks pretty good in like this kind of monster kind of, you know, heel role. Not necessarily like a, you know, the way that Brock was, but like in a little bit of a dominant heel role. He's looked pretty decent. So I think having Finn go over to kind of run it back, run back the Universal title reign that he never got is, I think, a really good way to go as well. To kind of baby faces as your first champions, I'm not really a huge fan of, because it's very difficult to book a babyface title run. A babyface chase for the title is a lot more fun to watch as a fan than a babyface title run. You only have to look at like AEW and how much people lost interest in Hangman Adam Page when he became champion, because everybody just loved the chase. It's a lot. It's a tale as old as time in wrestling. The babyface title run is never as good as the babyface chase. So I think I would have Finn go over and kind of start setting up another kind of, you know, maybe that can be the start of Seth's kind of, you know, because at the minute he's kind of in between. That could be the start of Seth kind of switching back to being a you know, a bit of a face and go and take the belt that way.
I mean, to be fair, there's so many different directions you can go with it. I think everyone's pretty much
they're infinite.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone's pretty much universal in the fact that Seth's going to be involved in the title match at some point, or at Night of Champions. It's just whether or not he wins it or not. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, because then you've got obviously the next part, obviously, of this discussion is the draft, which is obviously starting on Friday. And I think we'll get some telltale signs from that, to be honest, because, say, for example, if this title goes to SmackDown, then I think Finn potentially winning that belt could happen, because then you've got Rhea, who's got the SmackDown belt. Unless they put Rhea or Bianca on the other brand, but then I don't know how that works with the belt, because they were obviously teasing.
You just hand them over to each other. That's how it.
Yeah, you just throw it on the ground.
Someone accidentally drops it, and then it starts a whole feud, and then it's interesting.
The less said, the better.
But yeah, so like I think obviously it opens up a lot of possibilities. I mean, for me, another outsider that I would love to have a shot at this belt at least would be Gunther, because I just think if you want to build some prestige on it straight away, give it to Gunther. Him have a nice little like 6-month run with it where he's just defending it and beating everybody every week for it, because he would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're probably building to with one of the belts at some point, because I think there's some symmetry to what they're doing with the fact that Gunther was second in the Rumble to Cody. And I think the fact that maybe if Cody gets that heavyweight belt, I think that Gunther might be the one that gets it from him at some point. Whether it's Money in the Bank or something else or just a normal title shot, I don't know. But I think there's something there further on down the line that they'll build to. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. So from talking about the not so controversial belt compared to the Universal belt anyway, when that first came out, we'll move on to a controversial man that appeared backstage at Monday Night Raw. You see the segue there? We got it. It's Phil Brooks himself. It's CM Punk. CM Punk, of all people, appeared on Monday Night. Not on Monday. I wish he appeared on Monday Night Raw. That would have been a hell of a story to talk about. He appeared backstage at Monday Night Raw for a brief period of around 20 to 25 minutes, depending on who your wrestling news comes from. Yeah, a very strange one. Like, I didn't see this coming. Apparently, he was on the same flight as a bunch of other WWE wrestlers, and like they were like, "Oh, just come backstage; it'll be fine." And it was for about 20 minutes. And apparently, he spoke to Miz, cleared the air with Miz, spoke to Triple H. Apparently, that was a fine conversation, which is very surprising considering the history between the two. Do you think there's much more to it than he was just saying hi to his friends, or do you think he was there to maybe rub some shoulders and maybe, pat people on the back a little bit and be like, could you get me out of this AEW situation a little bit, guys? Fancy bringing me back into the fold, eh? Seeing we are pretty much coming up to 10 years since he left WWE, which is mad to think that was 10 years ago. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Gav? We'll start with you.
I think it's just something out of nothing, to be completely honest. Like you see people backstage at shows all the time. Like Ricky Starks was backstage at Royal Rumble. No one really kind of kicked up a fuss about Starks is going to leave AEW and go to WWE. He's just friends with Cody. I think it's a little bit out of nothing, to be fair. Charlotte goes backstage at AEW shows all the time, being married to Andrade. Yeah, I mean it's a nice headline, but I don't think Punk's going anywhere other than this new AEW Saturday show that they're going to do. Collision, I think they're going to call it. So yeah. I can't see it being any more than Raw was in Chicago. He's from Chicago. Like, yeah, he's just got a flight back with some friends, hung out for a little bit, and wanted to clear the air. So I don't think it's anything major.
That's disappointing. Bragster, what do you think?
I haven't got a clue. I don't know.
Why not?
Because it's CM Punk, right? If it, as you said, if it was anybody else, I wouldn't bat an eyelid. Maybe apart from Brock Lesnar. But if it was anybody else, right? Because Brock just goes around and does what he wants. CM Punk's just got the same mentality of, I'll just go wherever I want, do what I want, cause up as much fuss as I want, and there's going to be zero consequences to it. Which means, because of that, I can never know whether his intentions are correct or not. Right? I could just never tell with this man, because he just, I don't know. I grew up loving CM Punk. Then he came back, and then I loved him less so. Since he's been back, I don't want to see him anywhere near WWE. Quite frankly, I don't think he fits there anymore. I think the company has moved on. I think it's moved on in a positive direction since Triple H has been in charge. I think CM Punk coming in, who is known, quite frankly, to be toxic, to come into a dressing room that, quite frankly, has got a very good mentality behind it. There's a lot of positive news coming out of the dressing room of WWE for the first time in yonks. So I think adding CM Punk to that is a terrible decision. So fingers crossed he doesn't come back. However, if he did come back and he uses this via Burns, I would pop like nobody's out of business, right? Because that is his best theme, and I don't care what anyone else says, right?
You're a liar.
Then it is his best theme. It's a fact.
I just love Killswitch Engage.
Oh, shit. Brilliant. I'm hoping that Gav's right. And that all it was to just clear his air with his mates and, you know, see a few people like all the other people that we've been seeing backstage at these shows before. That has actually been quite nice to see this like mix and it not be a problem. You know, and that CM Punk did just come back to clear the air before coming back to AEW, probably knowing he's going to get caught, just hype up his return that little bit in the publicity. That's what I'm hoping is the case. And that's what I think my brain's telling me is the case. It's just every other part of my body is shaking in fear. Yeah, I
don't get this. I don't see. I'm a big CM Punk fan, so like him coming back was amazing to me. Did I agree with how he went about things towards the end of last year at All Out and all that stuff? I don't agree with that. No. Did I agree with some of the things he said? On a certain level, yes, but again, he went about it the wrong way, I think, and that's probably it is why where we are today with him, and then potentially being on a separate show. But I do think that, you know, sometimes his mouth gets in the way sometimes, and he does say things which make him an unpopular guy. But I do think that like people do forget that like a lot of his problems have come from other people around him and people taking pops at him when he wasn't really doing anything. I know there's stuff recently when he put the thing up on Instagram of, and then he quickly deleted of like taking a pop at Jericho and Moxley's a bit different. But like the whole Hangman Page thing was because Page basically had a pop at him about something he had no idea about and had nothing to do with. And then he fired back and people were like, oh, but you can't do that. It's like, well, Page did it first and like no one batted an eyelid. It's like, why isn't Page getting it? I mean, probably because CM Punk did call out a load of people because Page did call out a lot of people in the middle of a press conference in front of the world, but you know, and then like, you know, and everyone goes, well, he was toxic at WWE. Was he toxic at WWE, or did like WWE just really badly mismanage him medically and he was pissed off about it, so then told everybody about it because he was like, you know, them basically. Sorry, Morris, you have to get the beep machine out again. But yeah. So, like, for me, I don't think it's as big a thing as everyone's making out to be, because everyone's like, oh, is it WWE? Is he trying to soften them up so he can get out of AEW and get out of that situation? And you know what? Maybe it is a long-term play. Maybe it's like, I'm going to get out of this AEW contract in a year or two, and then I can be like, right, I'll just have one last run in WWE and say sayonara.
Which would make sense. That would make perfect sense if that is the case. Like, because that is sort of, you know, harkening, you know, that's where he had, you know, his amazing run that sort of made him into CM Punk, you know, and I wouldn't necessarily mind it. I think that it's just, if it happened in like a year's time, 2 years' time, wouldn't mind it. It's just, as of right now, with obviously all the bad press that's around him and just how the WWE is just going through a transition sort of phase into sort of the new Triple H era, I don't want to see him now. You ask me again in a year or two, might be a different response.
Yeah, I think there has to be some sort of like cooling off period where he's on TV somewhere and it goes relatively well and there isn't some sort of like new controversy that comes out. Which, cue the next segue, is exactly what has been discussed apparently, because he's going on to this new Collide show like Gav was mentioning before. Apparently, this is why I'm keeping CM Punk on the screen. Apparently, he's had a meeting with Chris Jericho last Friday. And basically, apparently, it went relatively well, whatever that means. And apparently, they've had a discussion and it's gone relatively well. So, Chris Jericho versus CM Punk, let's go. First feud on Saturday nights on Collide.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what I think everyone's sort of expecting. It seems to be, I don't know, like, you know how WWE have the formula of they have a main roster call up and the Miz has to face them every single time. It seems like whenever AEW don't know what to do with somebody, get them to face JAS. Just do that for a while just to see him over. And honestly, there's a few times where people have complained about that, and I've gone, why? It makes sense. This is one of those times. It makes perfect sense. What's better to do than to get CM Punk cheered or booed and it not really matter? Get him to face Jericho, who gets cheered and booed depending on where he is. Get him to face somebody where the cheer and the boos don't matter. It's not like he's facing a monster heel where he has to get cheered, and then if he does eventually get booed, it's going to derail the entire plans. It's actually a really clever move to do. I think it's the right move to do because basically the fan reaction doesn't then matter. All that matters is the story then you're telling. It's also with somebody who's very safe in the ring, which means, and like the entirety of JAS is safe in the ring, which means that you can face all of these different combinations and he doesn't have to go super fast paced. You know, the whole JAS thing is they're sports entertainers. You know, it doesn't have to do this fast paced matches that you would against some other people on the roster. I think him facing JAS and Jericho is genuinely brilliant. And if that is the way they're going, I think it's the perfect first feud for him.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect first feud for him. What do you think? Do you think, Gav? Do you think it's a good fit, or would you rather him face someone else? Well, again, we don't know who he can face because it's supposed to be essentially one show is the people who don't want to work with Punk, and then the other show is do you fancy working with Punk? Yes, then you're on the Saturday show. Apparently, that's the rumor, but who knows if it's true.
You know, I think Jericho's a great idea. I mean, the JAS is one of those things that you can kind of do anything with. You can put them against anyone, with anyone, you know, get anybody else involved, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, we saw it when, you know, Sammy and Ty ended up and Anna Jay ended up involved with the JAS. It just made sense because they all ended up being like cocky heels and just dicks, really. It made a lot of sense. Jericho is willing to do business with pretty much anybody. And he can put he's always been able to put any kind of personal feelings aside to do business. And I mean, again, like you said, put Punk against someone where it doesn't really matter what side of the coin he's on. And then you can kind of get a gauge for where the crowd wants him to be and move on in that direction. Because the JAS the JAS are going to be over regardless. Chris Jericho is going to be over regardless. So throw Punk in there, see what kind of reactions that he gets, and then you can go from there. Because like as you were saying, you know, reputations with them all as safe workers. I mean, that's one of the main reasons Adam Cole's there. Like, he's only just come back from a really long-term injury, and the first thing he's done is his first match was against Daniel Garcia, and then his first like program is with the JAS, where he's going to work with Jericho, and more than likely at Double or Nothing in, you know, a month's time. So yeah, it makes complete sense to fire him in with the JAS, and for him and Jericho to kind of work through some things they've, you know, got to work through, and then to do business
throwing each other around a wrestling ring. What a better way to do it. Yeah.
Well, proof that just to prove that they can work together, and that Punk's not necessarily the poison chalice that everyone kind of thinks he is after the whole brawl out scenario.
Yeah, I think Jericho's sort of the first domino, isn't he? So if that goes well, then it's someone maybe on the next level who wouldn't want to work with him, or you have a few feuds with a few other people, and then maybe you get to that sort of the echelon, which is, I suppose, Kenny and the Bucks versus Punk and FTR. Maybe, you don't know, something like that, maybe along the lines. Because I get the feeling that like in maybe like 6 months' time, if things have gone well and there isn't another kickoff storm, everyone's gonna be like, well, this has got to happen, right? It's gonna happen at some point. But again, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what's actually happened. We've only got reports to go from. But for me personally, I think the other aspect to it is the fact that remembering the Jericho Punk feud going into WrestleMania that year, it was brilliant, and it was probably the best feud going in, because I think it was the first year of Rock and Cena, and and that was by far the best feud going in. Was Punk and Jericho, and that was with the PG WWE era red tape all around it, and they still managed to make it the best thing. So now that they're in AEW and they have essentially the handcuffs off and they can just go for it, it's kind of like, and Jericho can just do whatever he wants now. It's not like Jericho's just got to think, I'm going to make a list work, or I have this. I can just basically do whatever the fuck I want because I know it'll work. Versus CM Punk, who basically will say whatever he wants on the mic within reason, I suppose. Now, I think it'll be magic. And also, absolutely. Quick sidebar. Seeing as we mentioned his return, Adam Cole. For me personally, he should be the guy that beats MJF for the title.
I wouldn't mind it.
Oh, so you want to see Adam Cole one of these, do you?
Yeah.
You want to see him with an AEW world? You want to see him with a world title, do you?
Gav's been waiting for this for his entire career. He's just like,
I have.
But like
as of recording, I meet Adam Cole this weekend, or as of release, I met him like 2 days ago. So that's gonna be fun.
That is quite cool.
Just a typical, absolute flex there.
Yeah. Just a little bit of a flex there, you know.
Yeah. I was gonna do one, but then I realized I have nothing to flex, so I was like, I'm not gonna do it. So it's fine. But yeah, I think Adam Cole should be the one to beat MJF.
I would love it. I would love it because then, because it would just make. It will make MJF angry because basically, I think going forwards from there, you've got a lot of different avenues to go down. Like the MJF will probably leave for a bit, or like if he doesn't, then he'll just go on this angry train of like, I've been beaten by an ex-WWE guy, like this sort of thing, and just keep calling Adam Cole an ex-WWE guy. You then have Adam Cole, who's absolutely beloved, have the Undisputed Elite kind of. With him there, whether Bobby Fish returns or not, no one knows. Probably not, but I'm sure they'll be interested in getting him in. So they've got the full Undisputed Elite in there, which will be amazing. And then you've got, then you can have. That's where I think a babyface title reign can work, because then there's so many storylines that Adam Cole can go into. And obviously this is happening down the line, but like when you've got that faction sort of there with you, you can have his mates go for the TNT title or the tag team titles, and he can support them and not have to be in 20 billion feuds, with 20 billion people. There's ways of sort of delaying certain feuds, having him involved in other ones, and keeping him on TV that way. I really like the idea of Adam Cole beating MJF. I think it's been thrown around a few times I've seen since MJF has sort of been in this title feud and then into the reign. People kind of said, Adam Cole should be the one. And I'm getting that attitude that he might be, because just with the whole AEW All Access or whatever, the show that they've got, Adam Cole's like the face of that. Having Adam Cole, ever since Adam Cole's come back, he's been the face, really. Like a massive face on the side of AEW of this is us going forwards. What a better statement to say that's you going forwards than putting the strap on him.
Well, I think with that as well, him being injured, did they kind of feel like they need to pull the trigger on him sooner? That could play a massive part into it as well. I mean, obviously Britt's always been over regardless of what she's been doing. Throwing All Access around the pair of them is only going to kind of accentuate how much more loved Cole can be. But then again, with him recently coming back from injury, you've got to feel like get him through a program, get him comfortable working again, and then just put the rocket on him, pull the trigger now.
I think personally, if I was, and again, this is me sort of putting dream scenarios out there, the time to do it would be All In at London.
Oh. Don't tease
make it the main event of MJF versus Adam Cole, and just fucking strap that rocket.
The noises I would make.
Yeah,
I would die. At that moment.
I'm hoping in a few days' time, when the ticket sale pre-sale goes up, I'll be able to get some tickets. So even if it's in the gods,
prices,
to be fair,
they're good. They're really good.
They are decent. Even if they're in the gods, I'm I'll be happy. I won't care.
Yeah.
Just the fact that I was there would be enough. So yeah, we'll see. We might do another podcast next week where who got tickets and who didn't. one of us is happy, or none of us is happy, or all of us are happy. It's one of those options, I think. But yeah, like it would be really cool to see a moment like that, especially for Adam Cole, who's like so good. Like when he gets that run, it's gonna be so good, man. It's gonna be so good. But yeah, so I think we've covered everything basically there in terms of everything that we need to discuss. I'm sure there'll be more talking points to come because literally the draft starts tomorrow night. Then you've got Backlash the week after, and then the build to Night of Champions happens on the 27th. So literally bang on a month from now. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be back with another wrestling pod soon. Anything else you guys want to add? Is there anything else you want to talk about? Any other wrestling news? No? Okay. That's fine. That's good. That means there isn't there isn't anything else I've forgotten. Yeah, so we'll see you on the next one, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a rating on the podcast, all that good stuff. Obviously, don't want time for more than it needs to be, but yeah, hit those follow buttons, all that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much, guys. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
What happened to you, boy?